Hello, growers. Looking to turn your homestead into a profitable business? Or are you a farmer looking to boost your sales? Check out my book, Sell Everything You Grow. This book is the ultimate guide to choosing the right farm business model that fits your farm, time, and location. Discover which model has the highest profit margins and why diversification is so important. Whether you're selling apples, vegetables, or microgreens, Sell Everything You Grow will help you find your first market or expand into new ones. Get Sell Everything You Grow on Amazon and start selling more today. Yeah, and this can transition us a bit into, applied mycology, and that's where
Yeah,
you're spending a lot of your time now that you're retired from doing research. You work with the company Sempera, which deals a lot with mushrooms and using those in human products.
yeah,
What does the future look like for a lot of these nutraceuticals?
yeah. Well, when I retired in January of 2021 from academia, I thought I would be retired, and then the CEO of Simpera Organics, Nirmal Nair, found me about 6 months later and told me that the mission of the company is to heal and feed the world with mushrooms. I figured that sounds pretty good to me. I've been working towards that for all my life. Uh, There has been a lot of controversy over it. There's been a lot of pseudoscience, and that there's been thousands of years of history in cultures throughout the world using mushrooms for medicinal purposes. There has been over certainly in the last 20 years, 30 years, more so in the last decade or so, a lot more research, good scientific, well-supported research into some of the compounds that are formed by fungi that may have medicinal properties. There have been some famous mycologists that have poo-pooed the use of fungi, saying that there's no real good data out there that show that mushrooms are medicinal or have medicinal benefits. I disagree with that. There are more human clinical trials that are happening now than ever before, which is good. So it all starts with in vitro studies, looking at some of the fungi, looking at how they can interact with living cells. You can do some in vivo with rats, with mice. So there's thousands of papers out there looking at some of the effects of various fungi. We call them now functional fungi, on on the various physiologies of mice and rats. What you don't want to do is extrapolate too much of that to humans, because we can go through the medical literature and see how many of those don't really work, how many of the things that are very beneficial for mice and rats that don't really translate to the human physiology. Many of them do, but many of them don't as well. So there's a little bit of overblown, I would say, pseudoscience proclaiming too many of the wonderful benefits from some functional fungi, when the only data we have comes from tests done with mice and rats, or in vitro, using various chemicals to look at their effects. However, certainly in the last decade and a half or so, many of those have then translated into human clinical trials, showing the same sorts of effects that you're finding with certain species, with certain groups of compounds that work very well in humans as well. What I see going into the future is more taking these data from in the lab stuff and the lab work with mice and rats, and moving it into more human clinical trials, and seeing the effects of that, and taking those positive results, and then using those and helping us produce some nutraceuticals that really do show some positive benefits. And there are a number of them out there. We just had a product with our lion's mane product, which is a full spectrum product, both mycelium and fruiting bodies of lion's mane, and there's an important reason for why both are important. But we had a human clinical trial that was done. It was a pilot study with a relatively small sample set, but still good data from it, that showed it was very effective at reducing stress and increasing some cognitive function. So that's a good sign. There are a lot of human clinical trials happening now with psilocybin as well, and it's affected in reducing the effects of PTSD and addiction and depression and some other things like that. I will say that with psilocybin, all the human clinical trials that have been done and are in play right now that I know of have been done with artificially synthesized psilocybin, the single chemical, because then you can dose it. You know exactly how much you have. It's dosable. You can test it, and that's what's being done. Our human cultural interactions with psilocybin have been by consuming the mushrooms. And the mushrooms themselves, and different species of mushrooms, have at least 5 psychotropic compounds in them that interact together in various combinations, often called the entourage effect, along with other bioactives that those mushrooms might have. And the problem is that, and the one reason why a lot of the whole mushrooms or mushroom powders or extracts have not been used in many human clinical trials is because it's hard to dose it. You don't know exactly what you have. And every strain produces different amounts of each of the psychotropics, et cetera. So I see the future in that direction heading with being able to grow selected strains that you can grow under various controlled conditions that will, within reason, produce certain ranges of each of the psychotropics that are important. And then it would be dosable anyway, and you know what you're getting, and then it would be fine. Right now, anybody that's microdosing, you have no idea really what you're getting. It depends on what your source is. They're growing some mushrooms, they're powdering them. You're taking small amounts of it. You have no idea how much psilocybin, psilocin, baeocystin, norbaeocystin, any of those compounds are. It's a crapshoot. So I see it heading in the direction of actually more science-based, more understanding what the compounds are. You take reishi mushrooms now, and anybody selling nutraceuticals on rishis does not tell you how much ganideric acid is in it or any of the other phenolics that are in it. They just tell you it's a certain extract and I could go on and on about the extract stuff, but we probably don't have enough time to.
Today's episode is brought to you by Modern Grower. Let's face it, seeding in the nursery is tedious and time-consuming. Turn the drudgery into efficiency with the time and labor-saving Quick Click Seeder by Modern Grower. The Quick Click can seed a full nursery tray in seconds. It's fully compatible with all trays on the market, such as paper pot, airstrip, cell trays, prop tech, and more. The Quick Click can also be used for microgreens. Cut your time spent seeding by 75% with a Quick Click Seeder available at shop.moderngrower.co.